What's up guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Priscilla, and in this video I am going to be showing you how to draft the pattern for a blazer. So I made this blazer roughly 2 months ago, and a lot of you guys really wanted to see the tutorial on how I did the patterns. So I took a while doing this video because I made the patterns for this jacket like in my second year of fashion school. So this was like a year ago, and I actually had forgotten how to make the patterns, so I had to like dig out my books and my schoolwork, refresh my memory before coming back to the channel to show you guys how to do the pattern. So thank you so much for your patience, thank you for waiting, and thank you for all of the love and support. So if you'd like to see how I made this pattern, keep watching. If you are new and this is your first time seeing my gorgeous face, thank you. Thank you for coming to the channel. You know that red button? I think it should be here or there, one of these corners. Just click through and subscribe so you get notified every single week whenever I have new videos up on the channel. If you're an OG, I need to create seats for my OGs so they can dwell with me, because you guys are the real deal. Thank you so much for coming back to the channel, and without further ado, let's jump straight into this tutorial. La 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 la. We will need the following tools for this tutorial. I have gathered myself all the essential bits, the most important thing being pattern paper. So I have this clear white pattern paper which I'm going to be using, and then I also have my pattern master which has a curved end that is very important, and I also have a set square for straight lines. I've got myself tape measure, pen, pencil, eraser, and the sharpener. And to trace out my body dimensions, I got myself my t-shirt and I just pressed that down and folded it in half because I'm going to be tracing around this to start off the process. So the first thing I'm going to do first is to roll out some pattern paper and cut out the amount I need, and then I'm going to fold the t-shirt in half and tuck in the sleeve to trace out the front panel. So this is a bit tricky because the material was quite flimsy, but I just had to make it work somehow. So I tucked the sleeve literally into the t-shirt to be able to get the armhole sort of curve of the t-shirt. Then I folded in the neckline and any other excess bit from the back that would confuse me. So I'm just going to go ahead and trace around the front panel of the t-shirt, and I'm only tracing half of this because when you cut in the fold, you sort of get the same thing on the other side. I'm going to do the same for the back as well. Just roughly trace around with a pencil. We're going to refine these lines later on using the pattern master. So just using the pattern master as I'm doing here, I am going to refine those dashed lines I made earlier on just to make them clear and easier to work with. So once I'm done drawing those lines, I'm going to change the shape of the armhole. As you can see, it's not as curved as a front armhole should be, and my body is not straight. So I'm going to add in all the necessary dimension to change it the way I want. The first thing I'm going to do is to drop the shoulder line by 1 centimeter and extend the armhole by 2 centimeters in the bottom. So I'm going to draw the armhole a bit out and a bit more curved because the front of your body has more curved compared to your back. So I'm also going to change up the waistline. What you would do here is take your body dimensions, your waist and your hip, and you divide it by 4 to get your waistline and your hip line measurements. And once you do that, you just connect those points together and you would get a front panel that looks sort of like this. Everyone's body varies. So I'm also going to mark where my waistline is. Mine is 38 centimeters from my shoulder line, and I'm going to draw a line across from the side to the center front so I know where the waistline is exactly. So this is what the front draft sort of looks like, and once you sort of have this front draft, it's easy to recreate or plan out any designs you want to be in the front of your jacket. Once you're satisfied with the front, it's time to work on the back. You're essentially just going to repeat the same thing. So the first thing you do is to refine and make those dashed lines you made earlier on more visible and clear, adding your waist and hip dimensions, draw on the waistline, and just indicate that that is the back of the jacket plan. So this is the front and the back. I just added notches on the armhole so it will be easy to put on sleeves later on if I would like to do that. So the next thing that we're going to be working on is to actually create the panels that this jacket has. So the jacket has multiple panels in the front and in the back, and that's what makes the jacket design really interesting. So the front panel has 3 different sides, a top and two sides that make the left, and the same thing for the right. So according to the plan of the jacket design here, we are going to follow that sort of lead. And the first thing we're going to be doing is to sort of make a dart, do the side ones, and then before going on to work ahead on the lapel and the collar. So the first panel we're going to be creating is the top front panel, which is a diagonal line that goes from the neck to the armhole. You can decide how wide you want this to be or how small. So the next one is a front side panels, which is sort of like a dart. And the first thing we'll do here is to mark the middle point of your waistline and then mark 1 centimeter on either side. And just draw a line that passes through that middle point of your waistline, and then you mark your bust point because you want the jacket to be fitted only around your waist and not all the way across, before going ahead to create your dart lines starting from your bust point to your waistline and then onto your hem. So what you're doing with this dart is you're taking in 2 centimeters from your waist to make it fitted. So the next thing we're going to be working on is the neckline, and the first thing I'm doing here is to drop the neckline by 3 centimeters and draw in a new neckline because the first one was just way too high. So the next thing we'll be working on is the lapel, and to do this we will be extending the center front by 4 centimeters because we want a bit of an extension to fold back into the jacket. And then we'll connect that 4 centimeter mark down to the waistline from 2 cm. So let me say that again. You connect that 4 cm mark down below to the waistline 2 centimeters below, as you can see here. So after this, we sort of know what the front panel is looking like. You can see it has 2 and 3, which will be traced out separately and joined on together. Moving on to the back panels of this jacket design, as you can see, it has a top back panel which we'll be working on first. So to do this, I'm going to mark 15 centimeters down from the center back and create a curve that looks somewhat like this. You can either make yours more rounded or make yours a bit flat. The choice is yours. So that is the first panel that we are going to create. The second one is the side panels, which are 2 panels by the side of the back. And to do this, we're sort of going to be doing the same thing we did for the front. That's mark a middle point, draw a straight line, and create darts. But there are no bust points in the back. So you are going to create the dart that goes all the way from the midpoint of that waistline we made to the bottom of the curve of the top panel. So this is what the back sort of looks like right now. It has 1, 2, and 3 panels, and the part that sort of create like lines across is where we don't want to trace out when it's time to trace out the different pieces of the jacket or the blazer pattern pieces. So this is what the front and the back of the plan looks like, and this all done just makes tracing out the pieces a whole lot easier, because as long as it's all within piece 1, you trace out that part for piece 1 and do the same for piece 2, not including the shaded bits that I have done here. You do the same for the front and for the back. So by the time you trace out all the different pieces and put them back together, you get the pieces, the panel for the front and the panel for the back, and so on and so forth. So for this piece, for example, you trace out just that part for the top and you cut that piece on the fold. You do the same for the top and the center back because you want to have one piece. So now it's time to create the Riviera color, which is marked in blue in this illustration here. And to do this, we are going to trace off the front neckline onto a fresh piece of pattern paper that is underneath. So I'm just taping down the plan here so it doesn't move when it's time to trace. I'm going to trace from that shoulder point to that center front point along this line here, not that first line, the new neckline we created. So I'm just indicating where the shoulder line stops as well as the center front mark. So I'm just taking the paper off and then I'm going to draw those lines in using my pattern master and a pencil. and move on to the next step. So once the line is drawn in, the next thing that we will be doing is to draw a line. So this is a bit tricky to explain, but you're going to draw a line 45 degrees from the start of that curve, and the line is going to be 5 centimeters long, and you would understand the reason for that as we go along. So this particular step I did wrong, and I realized when I was doing the voiceover I did it wrong. I was supposed to trace from the shoulder point to the center back and not from the center back to the shoulder point, but it sort of doesn't matter because the shape of the line changes later on. Once you've traced out that back neckline, I am going to be using my pattern master to draw in the line, and the line is going to be a continuation from that front one we did earlier on. So I'm going to square out from the end of the curve, which is literally drawing a straight line perpendicular to the curve, and connect that line to the first line we did to create a shape that looks like this. So as you can see, that curve we made earlier on is being changed to a square to allow for the Riviere collar to fold when you've attached it to the neckline of the jacket. So as you can see here, the last line is 7 centimeters in dimension, and the curve is a combination of the front and the back. So I'm going to go ahead and trace out all of the separate panels, all for the front, all for the back, because the idea is you're going to cut different pieces of fabric and join them back together to make your blazer. So at this point you can be creative with fabrics, with colors, with textures. You can just have fun, and that was what I did in my blazer pattern tutorial that you guys loved so much, and I'm grateful for that. So once I've traced out all the pieces I need, including my back facing, that is so important and crucial, as well as a front facing, which is identical to the front panel of the jacket, indicating my grain lines as well, I am going to add my 1 centimeter seam allowance all around the pattern pieces, except those ones that are going to be cut on the fold, such as the center back piece for the top panel and the bottom panel as well. So I'm just going ahead and working in those 1 centimeter seam allowances, what I need. But for the hem, I added 3 centimeters because I wanted to fold it in and create those creative stitches that I did in my blazer pattern. So once I'm done adding all of my seam allowances, I am going to go ahead and cut out the pattern pieces, not cutting the original line but cutting on the seam allowance line, because the seam allowance is what allows you to join the pieces back together again. So I'm just carefully cutting out the different pieces of the pattern, all of the separate bits, and as you can see I've added notches, and you would understand why notches are a lifesaver, especially when you have so many pattern pieces for one garment. So I'm just quickly going to cut out all of the separate pattern pieces using my scissors, ensuring those pattern pieces are as accurate as possible. So if the scissors is sharp, cutting is easier, and you should have a fabric scissors and a paper scissors. So these are the final pattern pieces. There are a total of 9 pattern pieces for this jacket design, excluding the sleeves. So the front has 2 side panels which look like this. The front one, which has that extended bit that is going to be folded back into making the lapel, the side which is going to be attached like this to create the whole side piece that you have, and the front which is going to be joined onto the side. So that notch right there indicates that that piece belongs to that piece and is joined at that point. And that is the Riviere collar, which is added on last. And for the Riviere collar you need a pair and a whole piece as well. If you watch my blazer tutorial you would see what I mean. So I also cut myself a front facing, which is essentially the same shape as that first front piece, which has the extended bit for the lapel. The only difference is the front facing has the whole of the neckline and is extended to the shoulder. As for the side, you're going to cut that side on the fold to have 1 piece and 2 pieces for the side, which will be joined all together to that top back panel. And as you can see, I've put on a notch there, which shows that that piece belongs to those 2 at the bottom. I've also cut myself a back facing, which is going to be joined onto the front facing to finish off the neckline of the collar. I'm not going to show how to make a sleeve, but there are two types of sleeves for blazer or tailor jacket, a one-piece sleeve and a two-piece sleeve. So please check the description box for links to those tutorials, as I am not going to be sharing them in this video, else it would be super long. But I hope you guys enjoyed watching all the same and you learned something. If you have any questions, ideas or suggestions, please feel free to ask them down below. And until my next video, have a good morning, afternoon and evening wherever you are. Bye.